Okay, welcome. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law, chapter 54, and we're up to number 9. Okay, so we're talking about food that we put them in a preserve them, sort of in honey or jam, or like a jelly. All minei merkachas, all types of preserves. Hadvash v'tzukah hem tefelim. The honey and the sugar are the secondary ingredients. And we make a bracha on the fruit, on its bracha. So let's say, for an example, say like candied piece of orange or something. So make an 8, iron the ill simon on base, and so that finished the chapter. We almost managed to finish it last week. Let's go to chapter 55. We just get someone in. So now we've discussed the brachas, what brachas on what, and what's when you have combinations of food, what's secondary, what different things. But now we're going to discuss in chapter 55 is if we have, let's say, multiple foods, all of a different bracha. So which do we make first? Now we've touched on it a little bit as a side subject. So we have mentioned it a little bit before, but here's what we're going to go into in detail. So chapter 55, number 1. So mish yesh lafanov mini peiros harbe. Someone has different types of produce. So here peiros doesn't mean fruit, same means like produce. We've got things that are hadama, that are ha'etz. And he wants to eat all of them, or at least some of all of them, of each type. So in Berachasem Shabbos, if their bracha is the same. So for an example, the all brei priya 8s. He's got 10 different fruits, and the all brei priya 8s. Then Yavarech al zeh shechaviv lo v'chavetz b'yosa. He makes the bracha on the one that he likes and wants the most. So he's going to have some apple and some oranges, a whole fruit salad. There's everything there. But his favorite is mango. He just loves mango. So he makes a bracha on the mango, and he also has in mind the other things, and they're right there, and they all go with the bracha. So that's what he does. Now, let's say there's 2 or more that he likes equally. As much as he likes mango, he also loves figs. So then, azayim yesh b'neihem min shiva shnishtabcha behem Eretz Yisrael. If amongst these fruits is one of the 7 which Israel is praised, so for example, in the example that I gave, the fig, then Yavarech al zeh, he makes the bracha on the fruit that Israel is blessed with. Now, if we recall in earlier chapter, we said that if someone has a choice between a whole food and a broken piece of food, then he should make it on the whole food. Here is going to be an exception. He's got either the fruit from Israel is the one he likes the best, or he likes it equal, but it's the one from Israel. So we said we're going to make the blessing on that. He'll make it on that, even though it's only half. It doesn't have to be half. I mean, and it was, in other words, not full, not the whole piece of fruit. It's a piece. V'sharhem shleimus, and the other fruits are whole. There's a whole apple, a whole mango, and he likes the mango equally to the fig. But there's half a fig. So since there's not one that he likes better, he likes it, even if he likes it the same, since it's the one that Israel is praised with, he will make the blessing on that, even though the others are whole. Now, v'im ein b'nei min shiva, and there's no other of the Israel species. Now, if there is, there's two fruits. He's got a date and a fig, as an example. Im echad shalim, one of them is whole. Vim echad ein shalim, and the other one's not whole. Shalim adif. The whole one now takes priority. Okay. Now we're going to have a slight different case. Till now, we discussed he's got different things in front of him, and they all have the same bracha. Now we're going to start discussing when there's different brachas. The came in aim birchos same Shabbos. Likewise, if the blessings are not the same. Elosh echad bechosei brei eitz. One of the fruit, at least, is brei eitz. The echad bechosei brei dam. And at least one of them is brei adam. Shetzarach levarach shneihem, and in which case you have to make both brachas. There's two different foods, or at least two, with two different brachas, and you have to make two brachas. So then it depends. Im ha'echad chaviv alav, if one of them he really likes the most, one of them is just that's his favorite food. Yavarach techila al ha'chaviv. He should first make a bracha on the one he likes the most. Vim shneim shavim loy, and if both foods are equal to him, he likes them both the same, or two of the many he likes the same. In other words, there's not one that stands out. Yavarach techila al zeh shul memin shiva. He should again make a bracha on the one that's on the seven species. Afilu chatzi, even though it's only a half, in other words, a piece of the fruit. Vim ein b'nei shiva. Now, none of them are from Israel. He's got an apple, an orange, and a pineapple, and a strawberry. So, shalim adif, the whole one takes priority. Vim shneim shleimim, shneim cheserim, if the two favorite ones or everything that's there are whole, or none of them are whole, then yakdim brei eitz, brei hadam. Yes, make brei eitz before brei hadam. Now, in general, we have a rule that we always make the more specific bracha before the more general bracha. Because if you made hadama, the fruit that grows in the ground, on a fruit that grows from a tree, since it's more general, because the tree grows out of the ground, then a person after the fact, that bracha worked. So whenever there's no other factor, ha'etz is always going to come before hadam. But in this case, is the factor that there's one, he just loves strawberries, which hadam, it's his favorite food, and it's very precious to him. So, today, I don't know if we get so caught up with because we have things all year round. It's imported, and refrigerated trucks and ships and planes, different things. But there was a time where you had things for a few weeks that it was in season, then it was gone. So you can imagine, let's say someone really likes strawberries, and especially in some town in Europe where they, don't even, and all of a sudden, this is your strawberry for the year, essentially. It's so exciting, it's so precious. So even though normally you would make ha'etz before the hadama, but in this case, since it's so precious to him, he makes the bracha on that first. I'm not sure that anyone today is really going to get so excited. Maybe we do. Okay, number 2. Now, im kulam min shiva. If they're all of the 7 species, he's got 7 produce here. They're all there. He wants to eat them all. And what does he do? So again, as we said, well, we're not going to say it's going to be unspoken, but unspoken, he's going to eat the one. He's going to start first with the one he loves the best, one that's the most precious for him. But in this case, v'shavim lo bechavivus, that he likes them all equally. They're all equally precious to him. He loves them all 7. So which one is he going to eat first? So sarach lahakdim ezeshek dimul aposuk. He starts eating first the one that comes first in the posuk. So we have a verse, we have a posuk in the Torah that describes. It's in the Sefer Devarim. The way you remember, it's actually, normally Jews aren't into quoting, chapter this and verse this, but this posuk I had to look up quite a few times, in the past, because I wanted to know what bracha to say first, and I had an easy way to remember. It was 8:8, chapter 8, verse 8. So when I want to eat, I look at 8:8 to know what I should eat first, right? So 8:8. That's how it always that's how my mind works. Like when I was a kid in school, we had in spelling words, dessert and desert, and I was the only one who got it right on the test. The teacher asked me, "How do you remember?" I said, "Because dessert had 2 S's, and dessert you take double." That was how I remembered. So that was so this is how I remembered. When I wanted to eat the fruit, I ate 8. But anyway, so just to read the pasuk, it says Eretz, the land of chita, of wheat, Sa'ira, barley, the geffen, and the vine, so it means grapes, the ta'ina, and the fig, rimon, and pomegranate, Eretz Zayis, the land of olives, shemen udvash, and Eretz Shemen Zayis, the land of olive oil, dvash, and honey. So what do we see? We see there's an order in the pasuk. The pasuk has an order. That's the order Shem put them in. So if we have all of these 7, and they're all equally enjoyable to us, they're all equally important, they're the same to us. Sarach lahakdim ezeshiktim pasuk. We give precedence, and as we take first the one that's earlier in the pasuk. So whatever is mentioned first in the verse, that's what we eat first. The Eretz Bas Hashanah pasuk, and the second, because it says Eretz, the word land, Eretz twice in the pasuk. Hefsek is a seder. It interrupts the order. So, in other words, we start it all over again. We start the order all over again. So Nemselafizeh, so it comes out according to this formula. Tamarim kodim novim, the dates come before grapes. The dates come before grapes. Why? Because even though grapes are earlier in the pasuk, but grapes are number 3 after the first time it says Eretz, and dates is number 2 after the second time it says Eretz. So what happens is, although we go in order of the pasuk, but it's like we have 2 lines in the pasuk, because it says Eretz twice. So we have it's like we put them side by side rather than linear. And so even though grapes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 words before dates in the pasuk, but grapes is the 3rd word after the 1 Eretz, and dates is the 2nd word after the other Eretz. So it goes first because it's 2nd after the word Eretz, as opposed to the order of the entire pasuk. Did that make sense? Yeah. Because dates are the 2nd one mentioned after the 2nd time we say Eretz. V'navim hushlishi le'eretz kama. While grapes are the 3rd fruit mentioned after the first eretz. V'davka novim, but this only applies to grapes. Right? Avol yain, but wine, kiven shudav choshev, since it's a significant. Wine is considered more significant than fruit. It's always going to have its own bracha. And it comes before all fruits, even dates. So what will happen when you got all these fruits and you're going to make a Retiree 8? Yes, the date comes, you make it on the date as opposed to the grape. But if you had wine there, you'll make the bracha on wine and its own special bracha, Retiree often, before you eat any of the fruits. It takes priority over everything. Okay. So summarize number 2. When the 7 species, we go in order of the verse, but not totally in order of the verse. Let me just get the.
Well, you just said when it's wine, it's a new preference, and it goes first.
Yeah, it's more
What
significant.
about
Yeah.
right? What about as opposed to chita or saira? If you have to
Right.
wash,
So we didn't get to those yet. Now, before we're talking about the 8.8s, let me just
uh,
I'm just gonna bring up the verse because some people I think getting confused. Just how do I make it larger? Larger. Okay, just gonna share screen, and hopefully it'll be more straightforward. So this is the verse. So it says Eretz, the land. I'll use the colored easier. Eretz, the land of chita, of wheat, so'ira, barley, the geffen, and grapes, uta'ena, and figs, verimon, and pomegranate. Then it says the word Eretz again. So it's like a reset. The Eretz, the land of Zayt Shemen, of olive oil, or dvash, and dates. So generally speaking, we go in order of the pasuk, but this second Eretz is reset. So geffen, grapes, is going to come before figs and pomegranates. But dates is the second one mentioned after the Eretz, and geffen, grapes, is the third one. So it's going to take priority over all these three.
even though it follows later in the pasuk.
Yeah, even though it's late in the pasuk, because the Eretz is like a reset. It's how many words away from Eretz are you?
Got it.
So it ends up going olives, dates, then grapes, then figs, then pomegranates. That's the order of the Retiree 8s. Because it's how many words away from the word Eretz in this pasuk, right? And again, chapter 8, pasuk 8. So if you ever need to look it up because you're not sure, 8:8. But that's when it's grapes. When it's wine, the grapes have been transformed, has been made into wine. So wine has its own special bracha because wine is particularly significant. So therefore, it comes for all fruit. Okay. All right. So hopefully looking at it
Wait, I had one
helped
quick
a little.
question there. Put it back up a
Yeah,
minute, please.
sure. Just like I didn't close it yet.
Between you have somebody who has date honey or barley.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I would do it the other way. I would do oil. I would do shemen is what?
Hashem is olive oil, but let's most people aren't going to drink olive oil, so let's use it as eating olives.
Okay. And the other one is one, two, three.
Okay, so what we said,
Yep.
so it depends how these ones, the wheat and the barley are. So we discussed in
Right.
previous chapters. So let's say we've made them into a cake. Let's just say cake as an example. So mazonos, because it's more the base, it's bread-like, and bread is the foundation of the meal, for lack of a better term. So therefore, they're going to take precedence over the ha'etz. But let's say they were just a roasted grains. So they're going to be hadama, not mazonos, a roasted grain. Then we're going to go in order of how far from Eretz they are. So if you had a clash between these two, an olive and the wheat, because they're both number one from Eretz, then the olive is going to win, because if everything else is equal, eight comes before Adama. But let's say we had wheat and a date, then this is the second one from the Eretz, and this is the first from the Eretz. So when it's been made into mazonos or hamaitzi, it has extra significance and it overrules. But if it's just a roasted grain, so it's hadama. Did that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. All right. So welcome those who just joined us. We're chapter 55, number 3. Now, we said we're mentioning different factors as to what makes precedence, what creates precedence to make the bracha on. So we said, let's say you've got an orange, a mango, and a date, and you like them all equally. They're all delicious. You want to eat them all. They're all delicious. So since the date is a fruit from which the land of Israel is blessed, it takes priority. We'll make the bracha on the date. So number 3 says, Hadayesh Mailam in Shiva. This superiority that the 7 species has is Davka Shnigmar Hapri. Only once the fruit is fully developed. However, Pri Shaloi Nigmara, if it's not fully developed, it's only half, it's not even properly ripe, Ein La Maila, it has no superiority. So you have this delicious mango that's all ready to go, and this date that's, it's not quite whatever. Then the date doesn't take priority anymore. The mango does. The mishtabach krab midday lechazi, because the verse that's praising these 7 species is only praising things that are prepared to eat. Okay, it's not totally unprepared to eat. If it wasn't fit for eating at all, then you wouldn't make a broch, or maybe make a shahakal, but you wouldn't have it at all because it's not food. But in other words, it's not properly ripe. It's not so great. V'chein, and likewise, if you're going to eat it in a way that it doesn't give its normal benefit of eating. Going for example, a koises chita, someone just chews a wheat kernel. So we're not talking about now a roasted one, which some people eat. Just taking a raw wheat kernel and eating it, chewing it. Ein lokadim, it has no precedence, even though wheat is first. But since this is chewing a raw wheat kernel is not particularly exciting, it doesn't have any priority. It comes last. Okay. Now, number 4, we discussed outside. Here's where it's written inside the book. Im yesh lafonov davish v'chasoi breipre eitz, or breipre adama, v'gam davish v'chasa shehakol. You've got at least three different types of food. You got a food or foods that have the bracha breipre eitz, another food or foods that are breipre adama, and another food or some foods that are shehakol. And v'roitze chol b'shneim. You want to eat them all. It mentions 2 because we're saying either the eitz or the dama and the shakal, but you could have all of them. So birchas breipre eitz or birchas breipre dama koidmus. The blessing of breipre eitz or breipre dama take priority over shehakal. Why? Shehen chashuvas. They are it's a more significant blessing. It's more specific, so that gives it more significance. Because it's more specific. The fact that it spells out, right? Shehaka means blessed Hashem who made everything, right? While Breitma 8 is very specific. The fruit of the tree. It's more specific. She'einam poitus element echad, in that it's only effective. It only fulfills obligation for one specific type of food. The fruit on the trees, or hadama, the fruit that grows in the ground. While for shehakol hibabracha kles harbe, shehakol is a blessing that includes many different types of food. So since it's many different types of food, it's less specific and therefore has less significance. Now, since ha'etz or hadama are more specific, more important because they're more specific, then vafilu imzesh b'chas shehakol chavet lo yoisa. Even if the shehakol he likes better. When we had a choice between only ha'etz and hadama, we went what we like better. But when shehakol gets thrown in, then it doesn't matter if you like the shehakol better. So even though the shehakol is steak, it's and the hadama is the broccoli that's cooked with the steak. And most people, when it comes to the choice, I mean, I'm sure there's some people whose their mouth is watering over the broccoli, and nebuch, the steak, is just something to accompany the broccoli. But most people look at the other way around. So even though the more important food to him is the steak, nevertheless, he first has to give precedence. He has to say the blessing on the food that's breipre eitz or breipre dama. And then afterwards, the food that's shehakol. Likewise, he's at the party and there's some carrot sticks and there's chocolate. And for him, the chocolate's a lot nicer than carrot sticks. Nevertheless, he has to say the hadam on the carrot stick first, then the shehakol. Okay. All right. Number 5. Brichas borei minei mazonos kedemes gam the brichas hayayin. Now borei minei mazonos. So we've taken the wheat or the grain, the barley, the spelt, the rye, the oats, and we've made a flour. We've ground it. We've made flour, and we've made like a cake or a cracker or something. So it gets borei minei mazonos. This takes priority even over brei gofen. Okay, so we've said shehakol. Priority above that is hadama. And if all things are equal, priority above that is a eitz. Then priority above that is Brei Priya Gofen. And now priority above even the Brei Priya Gofen is the Brei Menei Mazonos. So that's Mazonos, which is the secondary way of making grain food. Mikol Shekain, and how much more so Hamoitzi, the blessing on bread, which is the choicest way of making flour, food out of flour. Shari Kedemis Gal the Brichas Brayman Amazonas, it even takes priority over Brayman Amazonas. And therefore, B'Shabbos Yontiv, Shemakadosh Alayayin. So we have this issue here. Hamaitzi takes priority over wine. Or it's a kiddush, you're not washing, you're going to have crackers, there's mazonis. It takes priority over wine. Takes wine. So it takes priority over the wine. Yet, we make kiddush on the wine first. We need to make kiddush. We can't eat anything to make kiddush. So we've got a dilemma. On the one hand, the bread, the blessing on the bread should be made first. On the other hand, we can't make the blessing on the bread. We can't make the blessing on the bread till we make kiddush on the wine and make the blessing on the wine. So what do we do? Tzarech l'chasa is a pass. We have to cover over the bread. Right? So this is the primary reason why we cover our challah, we make kiddush. Okay, there's the secondary reason we put it on a plate or a tray or a cutting board with the cover on top, so it's covered on top and the bottom as remembrance of the manna that Hashem sent us. It had a layer of dew underneath and a layer of dew on top. These are secondary reasons, but the primary reason, it's like just this, that's just another factor that's chucked in. But the primary reason that we cover our bread is shelo yirena boishtoi. So the bread should not witness its embarrassment, right? Because if you're going to have the bread open on the table, and it should come first, and you overlook it and make kiddush on the wine, the blessing on the wine, you are humiliating the bread. As before we go further, I just want to mention a few things over here. Although this is a halacha class and not a Jewish thought class, but I think it's important to mention, teaches us many, many things. Number one, if we have to be careful about not embarrassing a loaf of bread, which certainly isn't going to feel actually embarrassed, how much more so to be careful not to embarrass people. That Chas v'Shalom will actually feel the humiliation. That's number one. So we're even careful not to embarrass an inanimate object and to show appreciation to our food. So how much more so we'd be careful to show appreciation to people, not to embarrass people and different things. So number one, there's a famous story. I think it was Rabbi Sal Salanti got invited to someone's house. He traveled a lot to speak to different Jewish communities. And one of the places he got invited, someone invited him to the meal, Shabbos meal. And when they come in, the host was hoping to make kiddush straight away, honor his guest. And I guess he'd been relying on his wife to set the table while he was in shul. And he comes in, and the challah is not yet covered. And he told off his wife in front of everyone, which that's not a good thing to do. So besides the lesson we're going to have from here, there will come a time, the most wonderful marriages, spouses disagree from time to time, different things, but you don't need to have your argument in public. That's lesson. That's a very important point number one. But Rishal Slanta said to him, he says to him, tell me, good sir, why do we cover the challah in the first place? He says, so we don't embarrass her and make kiddush. He says, so the challah you're worried about getting embarrassed, but your wife you're not worried about her embarrassment? Right? And he taught him the lesson. So when we were learning about Shabbos, we spoke about the Chassid Shaita, the pious fool. And the classic example that the Gemara gives is there was a lady drowning. People didn't have in a river. They didn't have bathing suits in those days, so they went for a swim. And undressed, and she was drowning. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. And this man says, "I can't rescue her. That it wouldn't be modest. She's not dressed properly." Right? This is the classic example of the chassid shaita, the pious fool. Because although, yes, under normal circumstances, you don't invade her privacy and you don't go and grab her when she's not dressed, but letting her die is not the answer. God forbid, right? So a person has to have priorities. So this is these blessings and the things that we do because of these blessings also teach us our life priorities as well. So we cover the bread. So it shouldn't be embarrassed that we're overlooking it because it should come first. How much more so should embarrass people. Yes, Susan, how are you?
I'm fine. Sorry, I was late. When it comes to a woman that's pregnant, which life has priority? If the baby's in distress and they need to try to save the baby's life.
Okay, so till the baby's head comes out, the mother takes priority because we say the mother is living and the baby is not yet living.
Not until the head is visible.
Not visible, has come out.
So you have to save the mother's life.
So the mother takes priority. Yeah.
The mother takes priority.
Yeah.
And after the baby is out.
Once the head is out, then they're equal. They're both living people. So
there's no priority. In other words,
it's not a priority, and that it could lead to. I mean, split-second decisions. So
yes,
you just try and do what you can
do. I had that experience. Believe it or not, I had that experience.
Yeah, so that's the view the Torah gives. And by the way, it's not only the mother's physical life, even her psychological. So give an example, God forbid we should never know from these things. Let's say a person became pregnant from let's say a rape, and some people could deal with that at a certain level, but some people, this person, it's made us so emotionally distraught that giving birth to this baby she's gonna crack up. She's not gonna be able to handle it. So that could be grounds for abortion. In other words, it's not only that she's not going to die physically; she's going to be fine. But since it's not only her physical health that comes first,
her psychological also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't mean she's going to be a little bit upset, but if it's going to make her have a breakdown, let's say, she's going to be
not able to take care of the baby.
Well, not take care of the baby can be adopted out. But we're saying that she herself is going to, just the fact she's giving birth to the child, she's going to crack up. She's going to. Not everyone who's in that situation is going to necessarily have that reaction. I'm using example, if she would. So it's not only her physical well-being that takes priority, it's her psychological as well. So it's and again, I mean, I don't think these are not things that people just decide willy-nilly. It's this is when person should go for some competent rabbinical advice, and because you don't want to make the wrong decision when we're talking about lives. Okay, so we cover the bread when we make kiddush, so the bread
that's what defines competent. You don't just ask casually a question in shul and expect an answer. They
Right.
really
I mean,
sit down and go through this.
yeah,
Doctors may not testify, but talk to them. They'll ask
that's
around
right. So
whoever they have to ask.
sometimes Rabbi needs to speak to doctors to get more medical information to
Yeah,
make them up. So the doctors obviously aren't able to give a halachic ruling, but sometimes the rabbi needs, in order to make the halachic ruling, you need to get all the information.
right. The
So
physical,
sometimes the
right.
rabbi will discuss with doctors. And yes, an important point, a general comment made in shul or at a shir, because every situation will be unique, slightly different. So a general comment, a general principle can't necessarily, or doesn't necessarily apply to any specific case, because each specific case will have its own unique factors. Yeah. So
I just
and
want to say
sometimes,
something. I just want to say
yeah,
something. When you have to make a split-second decision, when a doctor tells you, you're gonna die and your baby's gonna die, you have to make a decision unless you do what they tell you to do. I didn't even think as a Jew. I thought as a mother. You know what I'm saying? I thought I don't want my baby to die, and I don't want to die.
that's true. Now, also, unfortunately, you can't trust doctors often. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but being a chaplain in a hospital, I'll just give an example. My wife and I overheard this. It wasn't one of the people we were visiting. We were visiting someone else as chaplains in the hospital. But on the way out, we were organizing something, so we were in the office part, and there was a lady, I guess, in a prolonged labor. I don't know. And this doctor comes in frustrated after a check, and he says to this nurse, he says, "I can't keep staying. I've got a golf game tomorrow. Okay, if it's not born in half an hour, it's emergency cesarean," and storms out of the office. My wife and I were horrified. Now, I mean, it's he's okay. Now, obviously, not every doctor's like that, and sometimes doctors, they're more worried about lawsuits than people's also. And that's an unfortunate part of today's society. So yes, there are some times where you really have to make a split-second decision, and you don't have time to ask anyone. That could happen, but usually when the doctors are coming to you to make a decision, there's normally time to make a phone call. Again, there might not be, but often there is. And they try to make emergencies also because some doctors like to make themselves heroes. Like again, being in hospitals a lot. These doctors, it happens reasonably common. I mean, I'm not going to give a number, 1 in 50 or something, but it's not an unusual thing that children are born with umbilical cord wrapped around their neck. And so it's part of every nurse's basic training. They just stick in their finger, they flip it off. And I've seen it a few times. I think even one of my kids also, they just flip it off, and it's just one of those things. So obviously they have to be paying attention and they have to be well trained in different things. But it's really, but then they start telling parents, your child almost died, and I intervene. They make themselves into the biggest, the biggest hero, just doing the most basic part of the job. It's different things. So again, we're not knocking doctors, chas v'shalom. Most doctors and nurses are very dedicated people, and yes, they're making a livelihood, but they've chosen something where they can help people, and they want to give to society, and they want different things. But some people, it's about themselves, about prestige, and making a lot of money, or at least the perception of that, and their prestige and different things. And even the best doctor, though, with the best intentions, the best meaning, they're not God. They can make mistakes, and when possible, people should always try and get second opinions, and definitely if it's a significant decision, if there's the availability, they should discuss with their rabbi, different things, before they make decisions. again, in a split
No,
second thing. Sometimes it will be split second.
And you can always come up with a hypothetical which is going to be a result or come up with a result that you're going to object to. So I've seen a bunch of these cases. When you have the time, you do the best resources, the best talent, and on both sides, spiritual and physical.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I hate to say it, but there's something I had to do many, many years ago because I was a medic. And it was a cord around the neck. And I did not have a female medic with me. And I had notified 2 different doctors to let them know what was going on. And they said, go ahead and get it off the neck.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I hate to say it, the mother and the baby may die. The baby for sure may die. And I had to do that as well.
Yeah. So that's an important thing to do. And well
Hmm.
done. You saved the life, Baruch Hashem. And I wasn't minimizing the saving the life. I was just I mentioned that just some people, they like to it's the ones who work in the birthing wards,
Yeah,
that's like bread and butter for them. It's basics, and then some people, like, they try to self-aggrandize themselves. But someone, in a medic, sometimes when you call different things and it's not really your area of expertise, that can be quite nerve-wracking, I can imagine. And Baruch Hashem, you had the
I had the foresight to do what I had to do.
yeah, you did what you had to do, and it's Baruch Hashem, well done. But it's and I wasn't minimizing when people save people's lives, these things. I was
No,
just
not at all.
mentioning the side point, and yeah. All right, so we got slightly off topic. So let's we'll go back on topic. So we said we cover over the bread. So it doesn't have to witness that it's being overlooked. Shemakdimim loy birchas ayayin, that the wine took precedence when it shouldn't. So it's not only hamaitzi. V'chein b'shachris shemikadesh oichel achkach b'nei menzonos. Likewise, if you're at a kiddush, and this usually does not happen, hamaitzi, everyone covers over the challah. No, we're going to say now, usually does not happen. If you have a kiddush and you're making kiddush and there's mezainis there, you have to cover it at the times of the kiddush. So normally what happens is people put out the kiddush and they've got the famous fancy cake platters, and the caterer or whoever set up the kiddush wants it on display. And when you cover it up, they get upset. But it's if you have some crackers, you have different things, you try and cover it with a napkin or something. So if you're at someone else's kiddush, when you're the one organizing the kiddush, or it's your kiddush, it's very easy to have everything covered up. You put out some napkins, and no one can complain. If they do complain, so don't come to my kiddush, right? But when you're at someone else's kiddush, and so sometimes this is one person makes kiddush, sometimes many people make their own kiddush, and the things it's a little bit more difficult. You can't start walking into someone else's affair, their bar mitzvah kiddush, and start putting napkins all over their platters. Maybe halachically you should, but if it's going to cause someone to have a meltdown and there's going to be a punch up because people are vandalizing their kiddush, it certainly wasn't worth it. So what can you do? So the first thing is that the only one that affects you is on the same table that you make kiddush on. So if you go to one of these things and there's several tables, or there's it's like a buffet, so none of that matters. It doesn't, because it's not embarrassing the food. It's on a different table. It's not where you are making the blessing. So either you just cover what's right in front of you on your table, or the food's on buffets, you make kiddush on your table, then you go get something, or you get one piece of cake and you cover it with a napkin and bring it to your table, make kiddush. It can be discreet. There's many times that we can do what we should do, without making a whole holier than thou demonstration to the world. Now, sometimes it's appropriate to make a demonstration because people are looking to you. You know, you're at an event and perhaps you look religious. You know, I go somewhere that, you know, I look like a rabbi. So people are watching and they're looking to me for guidance sometimes. So sometimes it becomes appropriate that I say, you know, we should do this, we do that. But sometimes, you know, it's even if they're going to listen, it's going to create animosity. And it's called winning the battle, losing the war. You know, I use a classic example. I knew this fellow that he decided during his summer vacation, he's going to go to outlying area near where we lived, and he's going to visit families that don't have mezuzahs and get them to put mezuzahs on the front door. If they have mezuzahs on the front door, to put mezuzahs on other doors in the house. And, you know, that's a very wonderful thing to do. The problem was his method. He would go visit a family, and he did not leave by hook or by crook until there was mezuzahs on the door. Would never take no for an answer, no matter what. So, look, maybe I'm wrong, but I still look at that as, you know, you won the battle and lost the war. Because the next time a rabbi calls and says, I want to come visit, I'm sorry, we're on vacation, right? You turn them off. They you know, no one wants to be forced into things. So you have to try and again, you know, you can't replay it 5 times. And then if it doesn't go the way you want, rewind it, you know, and try again. You have to make a split-second decision, and only Hashem is perfect. Sometimes we get it wrong. But if we try and do the right thing, but in a nice way, it works. Hopefully. So to sum up this chapter, we've essentially mentioned the blessings in 9 precedents. Number 1 comes hamotzi. So if you have a choice to make hamotzi comes first. True, on Shabbos and Yom Tov Kiddush, we make hagofen first, but we cover the hamotzi, so it's like not there. But if we're having everything and it's a regular meal, you know, weekday, it's not a kiddush, hamotzi comes first. Number 2 comes mazonis. So that's the bracha on crackers and cakes and those things. Then number 3 comes the gofen, the blessing on wine. Okay, so those ones are unilateral. There's no changes. The next ones are going to depend on factors. So what comes forth is your desired fruit or vegetable. So you got various fruits, various vegetables, even though some might be from Israel, some might be wholesome, but if there's one that you really like, you know, yes, you're planning to eat all the fruit there, but mango, oh, it's just coming to season, you haven't had one, you're excited. So your desired fruit or vegetable. Now, if there's not one you particularly desire more than the others, or you desire them all, or whatever it is, then comes the fruits of the 7 species. And it goes in order of olive, date, grape, fig, pomegranate. And again, it's the Devarim, Deuteronomy 8:8, that verse, chapter 8, verse 8, 8:8, and you go in how many words is it after the word Eretz? Now, if there's no fruit from Israel, or they're all from Israel, and you desire them all equally, then we take the whole fruit or vegetable thing, and the other ones are not whole. Okay. If none are from Israel, they're all from Israel, they're all whole, they're all cut up, there's none you desire. In other words, now we're back to the other factors don't come in, just to the basic order of brachas, then ha'etz comes first. The fruit of the trees, because it's more specific, so it's more important. Then comes ha'adama, and the last is the bracha of shehakol. So generally, it's hamotzi, mazonos, hagofen, ha'etz, hadama, shehakol. But in the middle, before we get to the eitz hadama, we've got these other factors that can change it. Yeah, David.
Summon?
I'm just double checking. So in the Siddur, it has after eating grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, or dates. That's the order.
No. No, I think that just mentions what you normally eat. Now the order is olives. Olives
before
is
grapes.
first. Yes. It's whichever word is closer to one of, it says eretz twice, whichever fruit. So the closest one to an eretz is olives, then dates, then grapes, then figs, then pomegranates.
The Summum?
Okay, we didn't get to there yet.
Oh, I was wondering if, okay.
We're going to, we're still a few chapters off.
No problem.
Looking in the Siddur, I'm surprised that they're putting it in a different order.
Well, I don't think that orders, I think they're just telling you that's what people normally eat. So generally speaking, what fruit do you eat the most? Grapes, of these, that's. So I think it's just putting in common. I don't think it's specific order. It's just, I don't think it's to teach you
Are
the
you
halakha.
saying grapes because of the wine?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Well, now we're talking about eating the fruit.
Grapes are not my favorite. That's why I'm asking you. That's not my favorite. My favorite is pear.
Okay. Okay. So then, if you had grape and a pear, even though the grape is from Israel, if your favorite food, the one you really want the most, you're gonna eat them both, but you really like the pear the most, then you make the blessing that eats on the pear. But if you like them equally, or even if generally you like pear, but today you don't fancy pear more than anything else, then you'll make the blessing on the grape because it's from Israel. Well,
Rabbi,
it might be grown locally, but it's one of the ones that Israel's praised with. Yes, Moshe.
but what about kedusha? I mean, the grapes have more kedusha than olives do.
Kedusha.
I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I don't know, but
Why wouldn't we have olives? Olive oil at the on Shabbat. Would that take predilection? I mean,
okay.
in terms.
I don't know. Olive oil is bought on the altar in the temple, just like wine is. Actually, much more. So it has advantages there. So it's the order. I mean, Hashem made the pasuk. Hashem made the verse. So the order that Hashem put in the verse, that's what gives that order priority. That's not to say that one doesn't have a certain advantage in a different area over another. They might all have an advantage over each other in a certain respect. But when it comes to precedence of blessing, if all other factors are equal, in other words, they're all whole and we all like them the same, there's no other determining factor. We just go in the order of the verse.
Rabbi,
Right. Yeah.
the grains, it's wheat, barley, rye, oats, and spelt. That order?
Almost. The order of grains. So now if you have grains, it's wheat, barley, spelt, rye, oats.
Yeah, again, they put in. I'm surprised. I thought
I just many Mefarshim or rabbis today, they say that rye bread sold commercially today actually has majority wheat flour. So therefore you treat it as wheat bread.
So again, so tell me again, it's wheat, barley.
So if you had different types of bread and there's an order preference, be wheat, barley, spelt, rye, and oats. Then oat. As I said, rye bread today is usually majority wheat, so it would take precedence over the barley and spelt. All right. So it looks like we ran out of time for today. Wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Nice to
Rabbi.
see you.
A pleasure.
God bless.
And Mordechai, does your son have my contact details?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, bye.
Excellent. Take care.
Yashikar.
Thank you.